I want to ask if there's, because there were 13 people who were asked to speak, primarily because they were his students, co-teachers, people he's known for a very long time. But if there's someone here who would like to, since we have 10, 15 extra minutes, who would like to speak, please do so. And don't be shy. I mean, this group is never shy. Certainly, Aldo.
Ken Fogel used to do this thing. I don't know if this is true or not. He wouldn't let any grad student pay for anything. He would say that that's the Bob Fogel rule.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Bob would, as I said, he would always say something, it's on my nickel. Of course, Ken would say it's on my $20 bill, but it's Arena.
Yes, I'm sort of a grant student because Ken Stockoff is my physics supervisor. And just as Aldo was saying, I suffered many years because that was not the only statement of Bob's that Ken would propose. So every time I had a problem that I wanted to talk to Ken about, he would say, well, what Bob used to tell me, and then I would have to listen at great length to what Bob had told Ken. So the first time I met Bob was at the EHA meetings, and he was saying, well, what's Ken like as a graduate advisor? And I said, well, he's really good, except that when I have problems, he won't tell me what he thinks. He always quotes what you had said. And Bob said, well, I really commiserate with your sufferings, but being an economist is a bit like boot camp, which is that you have to suffer through this so that later, when you talk to your students, you're going to bore them by telling them exactly what your thesis supervisor has said. It is exactly right. My students are terribly bored because I'm constantly quoting Ken.
Just want to make certain that whoever gets this sees exactly who's here. And Naomi, why don't you just stand up over there so then,
Okay.
then
Well,
this isn't just taking pictures.
I really think, I was in graduate school in history and I didn't know how this world worked at all. But one of the first books I read when I got to graduate school, I read Chandler's Strategy and Structure, and I read Time on the Cross. And I knew what kind of economic historian I wanted to be at that moment. And I didn't know anything about how this world worked or how that you could go to seminars and there were these workshops and everything. And I was at Brown, which is not too far from here, as an assistant professor. And somehow I ran into either Bob Gallman or Stan, and they said, oh, you should just go up to the economic history workshop at Harvard on Fridays. And I thought, well, you can do that? I'm from a different world, right? I didn't know you could do that. And Bob was running it, and he was the most welcoming, generous person. And I don't think, I really wouldn't be a part of this profession without him. He was able to just bridge and make everyone feel a part of this intellectual exercise.
Great. Hey, why don't you come up?
Well, I can just sit.
Well, but then it's not focused on anyone. I obviously don't want to. Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Walking up there? Or do you need a motorcycle?
No, I'm fine. Be okay, Mom. My mother just had her knee replaced at 89, so I'll be okay. So my story is similar to Naomi's. My first job was in 1978 at Williams College, and the worry was, you're going to be out there in the middle of nowhere and just get disconnected with economic history profession. And this was a real worry of mine. But Bob Higgs assured, first, when I told Higgs and North I've got this offer from Williams, and they said, oh, that's really good. And I thought, well, liberal arts college, I thought you guys thought I was pretty good and was going to do some money. They said, no, it's a really different place. It's a place where you will publish, and they'll make sure you publish or you won't get tenure. And besides, you'll be really connected because Fogel's at Harvard and Parker's down at Yale, and I arrive in Williamstown, And there are invitations for me from Bob Fogel and from Bill Parker to come to their seminars whenever I wanted. And moreover, he leaves, Bob Fogel wrote me this little note, and he leaves his number and he says, just call Marilyn, and Marilyn will get you a parking permit, and you could just drive right into Littauer, and it was just wonderful. I went and met all these great people and never felt like I was, the kid from the country bumpkin kind of school. He always was interested in what I was doing. I met his students. Bob was there then, Ken was there, and he was just a welcoming presence, as everyone said, and very generous with his time. And I do feel that if it weren't for Bob and Bill Parker, I might have just done what most of my colleagues did do at Williams, was just do enough to get tenure and then let it go, but not really stay connected. And Bob made me feel like I was as good as the people at the best schools. And I've just never forgotten that. That and his pocket protector. No one mentioned that pocket protector.
For his 80th birthday, I made a list of 10 things that Bob would tell us to do. And one of them was always carry 10 mechanical pencils. You never know when 9 will fail. Yeah, right.
So I wasn't Bob's direct student. I learned a lot from him in all sorts of different ways. I have to say, one of my proudest moments is I wrote a book about coal miners back then, a long time ago. I had arguments about how coal mining didn't necessarily exploit all these various workers. And there was a book review in the Monthly Labor Review by a guy who was a clear UMWA acolyte, who decided that he was going to castigate me for saying that, I was just an acolyte of Bob Fogel, and that was all I was. And so I said, little did he know that I was very proud that he described me as an acolyte of Bob Fogel. So even though I wasn't one of Bob's students, I'm happy to say I'm an acolyte, and I have been recognized in print as
Certainly, Jared. We're very happy that Jerry Green has joined the group of economic historians.
Well, I'm Jerry Green, and obviously, as you know, I'm not a member of the DA, but I have very fond memories of Bob, and I want to say a few words. I have the honor of also being a student of Stanley, and Stan was my first teacher in economics when I was a sophomore at Rochester in 1964. And it was a good course. I think I got a B+, but that's the kind of student I am. Anyway, Stan and I kept in touch because I really did like him. And I stayed at Rochester for graduate school, and Stan told me, Fogel is coming here every fall term. You have to take economic history. Now, I was in economic theory, so not too many people in economic theory took Bob's course, but I did, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. My term paper, I had a similar experience to one of the speakers. My term paper in that course, Bob called me in. He said, you could publish this. So
What did you get?
What?
What was your grade?
I don't remember my grade. But I could look it up. Anyway, I do want to say one or two other things about Bob. Bob had a tremendous reverence for his teachers, and as you can see from his recent book on time and that, we all know that. But I knew Bob. I went to Stuyvesant High School. I'm 20 years younger than Bob was, and 20 years behind him at Stuyvesant. And we had a teacher in common. Someone who was a lifelong teacher. If you know Stuyvesant High School, it's a New York City public school and kind of an elite school also for the teachers. It's the pinnacle of someone's career to become a Stuyvesant High School teacher. So there was a teacher named Jake Lieberman, the chemistry teacher, who had been Bob's teacher and was also my teacher. And we used to talk all the time about Jake Lieberman. So not only did Bob have reverence for Simon, but also for Jake Lieberman, who was his high school chemistry teacher. And I think that's to me, that shows the kind of person he was, that he had a sense that we are in this business, it's a collective business, it's a network, we're transmitting the wealth of our knowledge and our respect for the subject from generation to generation. And that's how I like to remember.
Any other comments?
One thing to note is that the official University of Chicago memorial service for Bob will be
Okay.
October 4th.
October 4th.
Yes. If you happen to be in town.
Friday.
Friday. That's actually to be followed. We're having a commemoration of Time on the Cross 40 years later, so there'll be papers on Saturday to follow.
Okay, great. Well, if there aren't any other comments, and I think that each one of us could stand here and say things that are both warm and hilarious. In fact, I was thinking about the fact that when I first met Larry, I was at one of these dinners. Remember before I talked about the fact that the executive committee used to have dinners. Okay, we would meet and have dinner. And then after the dinner, I was supposed to sort of meet Larry for not the first time, but sort of the first time. And I had planned to come to the bureau and meet him at the back door. And then I thought that he would say, well, why don't you come upstairs, to the bureau? And after the dinner, Bob said to me, and he'd become very protective of me after my hitchhiking experience. And he said,
Protecting you from me.
yeah, well, he didn't know that. He said it was like 8:30 or something. And he said, where are you going? And I said, I'm just going for a walk. And he said, I'll walk with you. I said, no, I'm going to go meet someone. He said, where? I said, the bureau. He said, I'll go with you. and I couldn't shake him. And I went to the back door, and at that point, you could actually push something, and it buzzed upstairs. You could buzz someone. And I had a package to deliver to Larry, it was a Federal Express package, which Alan Kruger was mailing to Larry, but I took, because I thought that would be my way of meeting him, and I would give him the package. And so I buzzed, and Larry came down, and Bob is right there, back of me. And then Larry opened up the door, and I gave him the package, and Bob still wouldn't budge. So Larry closed the door. So it's quite obvious that I could go on and on with these funny and sweet stories, but I won't. So the bus is downstairs. You can turn that off, Larry. And